prioritizing zero tax when picking a long-term destination, long-term base, could be a very silly idea. And in this video, I'll explain why so that you can avoid it if need be. First and foremost, let's break it down and go through the basics. Why would a country offer zero tax incentives or just have no taxes at all? Well, simple reason. They need people. They need economic activity. They need growth, and they're not able to generate it themselves. So they create great incentives to bring people in, to bring in business, to bring in wealth, to bring in movement. Okay? That's an obvious one. That's why you'll see all of these countries giving zero taxes, because apart from that, there is no other reason for a country to offer zero taxes. It's not in their interest. It doesn't help them. It's just to get people in. So then you need to ask yourself, well, what happens when they get it? Because incentive like that will run for a couple of years, and then boom, there we go. Plenty of people, plenty of money, plenty of business comes in. What do we do then? Well, that's when these incentives start getting pulled back, and that's happened so many times you couldn't even count, with a lot of different European countries, and even places like Dubai, for example. Why did they have zero tax? Well, there could be a couple of reasons, but due to what happened in 2023, it's pretty obviously a similar reason. It's a brand new city that sprouted out of the ground incredibly quickly in the middle of the desert. They needed some other way to make money apart from oil. So, build a city, zero taxes, luxury, bring in people, tourism, business, etc. And even though, as of now, Dubai still has zero personal income tax, in 2023, they have introduced a 9% tax for companies. Okay? Which has never been seen before in Dubai. So, again, in 2023, Dubai introduced a 9% corporate tax. So already now, if you own a company, it might not be as much of a zero tax haven as you might think. Now, again, there are thresholds you need to surpass in terms of revenue to have to pay tax, but we went from zero tax completely ever for anything to corporate tax. And what we might see is they'll decrease the actual amount of money you need to earn, and then they might introduce a micro personal income tax, etc., because the city is evolving quickly, it's doing really well. And so there's no massive reason not to do that. And lastly, there are always trade-offs when it comes to moving abroad, when it comes to picking a country of your choosing. Every country, every city has trade-offs. And with Dubai, for example, well, number one, you've got no proper path to a citizenship. So you could be staying there for 10 years, but you'll never truly belong. You can't get a citizenship, really. Number two, the cost of living is very often double of what it is in Europe, if not more in some places. So you need to do your math properly. Like, something makes sense for one group of people and they won't for other. Like, depends on how much you're making. If you're making a very high amount of money, then the tax that you save is well worth it. But if you're making 5, 10k, maybe 15k, then you need to reconsider. And maybe going after zero tax is not even the best economic decision, let alone lifestyle decision. Okay? Let's say you're making 5 grand, for example. In Dubai, cool, you pay zero tax, but then you pay 4,000 to live a decent life. You're left with $1,000 after you've just paid everything, your rent, everything you need to. So no taxes, but you're still 4k down and only 1k left. In Serbia, for example, well, you'll pay maybe 600 for taxes, maybe 10%, but then you'll spend only 1,500 for a same level of lifestyle, like a good life, where you can enjoy, do the things you want to do, and you're left with about 3,000, right? Well, Serbia isn't a zero tax haven, and yet you're accumulating money quicker, even though you're paying tax, because the tax just doesn't have that much of an impact on you while you're making even a decent amount of money. to compare. And the cost of living is something you need to include. Not to mention that Dubai has absolutely scorching heat during the summer, and my personal thing is I just don't like the desert and the plastic, and I'm not a big fan of it. It's not my cup of tea. Now, I know a lot of people who live there. Some of them are my acquaintances, and all well. It's just not for me. I'd much more prefer to live in a country with good, grounded lifestyle, with beautiful nature, mountains shooting up from the ocean, clean bathing water, and place where things actually grow. You know, you don't need to import them, like stuff actually grows here. And so we're getting to the main point. Optimizing for zero tax might be a silly idea for two reasons. Number one, it might not impact you nearly as much as you think. It might even be counterproductive compared to other countries where you pay some tax, some friendly tax. And now I'm not talking 30-40%. That's incredible. But places like the Balkans, where you'll be generally around 10-15%. That's a very friendly tax. But the cost of living is so much lower, it offsets what you would have saved on taxes elsewhere, right? While arguably living a higher quality of life, more a fulfilling life. Secondly, things change. And if you optimize for a country with no taxes, you might find yourself a couple of years down the line, 5 years down the line, having to pay some, because the country can change its policy, it can introduce some taxes, like in 2023. Boom, went from 0 to, there we go, 9. And if you run a business that generates a decent amount of money, and you have to pick between being in Dubai and paying 9% and being in places like this to pay 11, like, I don't know about you. You can tell me if I'm being silly, but that would be a pretty easy choice for myself. And so, yeah, just think about things. Do some basic math. Understand what trade-offs the zero tax comes in, and aim for longevity. That's the biggest part. Some place might be incredible today, but you could already see where it's headed in 3 years' time. So aim for longevity, aim for the long term, okay? Because zero tax incentives come and go, but beauty and lifestyle like this, they don't change as much. So I hope you have a blessed day, and yeah, consider this.